Okay. What up, Claytriots? It's your boy, Technically Clay, streaming at you from sunny St. Louis, Missouri. It stopped raining for a day. At least, maybe I shouldn't speak too soon. Let me check the weather real quick. Heyo. I think there's not going to be any rain today. It's like the first day in like a week, man. It's been raining like crazy, but how's everybody doing out there? Hope you're doing good. I'm doing good. I'm feeling good this morning. Not gonna say why. Not gonna say why. But I'm feeling pretty good this morning. I'll probably end up saying why. Don't you worry. Let's see. Since the last time you saw me. So yesterday I did my gaming stream. I had a really good run on Slay the Spire going. I got to the last boss. I beat the first. I'm on Ascension 10, right? So this is with Necrobinder, Ascension 10. I got to the last boss. I beat the first boss. I entered into the next boss with 62 out of 66 HP. So still doing real good. But it's that new boss they added, the Aeon Glass or whatever, which fucking sucks, man. I hate that boss. If it was any other boss, I'm pretty sure I could beat it. But right now I'm kind of stuck. Like I got him down to like 20 HP or something, like out of 500. But I can't seem to kill him like one turn earlier, which is what I need because I die that turn every single time. So I'm going to keep trying for a little bit, see if I can get that, to actually happen, because it's just, I'm so ready to be done. I'm so ready to be done with Necrobinder, man. I hate that guy. Like, I hate that character at this point. But yeah, so we'll see. If I get it, I'll post it. I'll post like a screenshot, but if I don't, then I won't. Let's see. Then, but also, okay, so also yesterday I did some canvassing for Corey Bush. It went pretty well. A lot of people answered the doors. A lot of there was a lot of mixed responses this time. We were in a less, a district that didn't go, I think it went like 50-50 for Wesley Bell last time. So, there were still some people who were just like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, there's some people, there's one person I remember is like an older guy, and he was like, I just don't like her. I think she's corrupt. I think, I think they're all corrupt, but I think she in particular is corrupt. And so at that point I was like, because generally I don't bring this up unless they prompt it or whatever, like the APAC stuff. But I was like, Wesley Bell took $11 million from APAC in the last election cycle. Like, isn't that corrupt? And he's like, I don't care. I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you then. Corey Bush doesn't take any PAC money, man. I'm sorry. Like, there's literally no comparison and who's more corrupt in this particular circumstance. There's dollar amounts. There's literal physical like math you can do to figure out who's like mathematically more corrupt. Like, it's crazy, but whatever. But you can't win them all. There were also a lot of good interactions too. There was one lady I talked to who she said she wasn't going to open the door, but then she saw my tie-dye shirt and she was like, okay, I'll open the door. So she opened the door, and she wasn't the person I was supposed to canvas to, but I gave her my quick spiel that I give to people who it's not like, if it's not the person I'm actually supposed to canvas to, I try not to spend too much time on them, because I'm trying to hit all the doors or whatever. So I gave her my quick spiel and asked if she said she would tell her partner or whatever, and then later on she was walking her dog and she saw me again and she said, oh, I told my partner, and yeah, she was completely down. I was like, okay, cool. You're the one canvassing for me now, I guess. So yeah, I don't know, it was a pretty mixed day, but got to talk to a lot of people, and like I said, a lot of people opened the doors, which is really what I want the most. Whether I can convince people or not, I enjoy just talking to people. So and the first person I talked to, actually, it was really funny. It was literally the first door I knocked. He wanted to have because I always say that I'm with DSA whenever I'm doing it, whenever I'm doing my canvassing, and he wanted to have a long, in-depth conversation on capitalism versus socialism and stuff. And I was like, dude, I enjoy this conversation. Like, I enjoy having this debate or whatever, but I have to knock 100 doors, I got to get going. But that was kind of funny. I didn't necessarily win him over or anything, but yeah. Anyway, so I did that. What else did I do? I think. So I also played Mecha Chameleon with my World of Warcraft guild. That was a lot of fun. Oh, I wanted to show this picture, which was, I think, one of the best hiding spots I had seen the entire game. But look at this. Isn't that crazy? Look at that. That's like so hard to see. I thought that was really good. Anyway, I can't remember who did that one, but it was very impressive. And then let's see, what else did I do? Not much else. I think I just went to bed after that. Woke up, cleaned up a little. I was going to work out, but then I chickened out and didn't. I got lazy and I didn't. So I just made some coffee and I prepared a little bit and I came up here to be with you beautiful people, with you, the viewer. Hello. Yeah, so today I'm just going to do some news of the day stuff, news of the morning stuff. The main reason I wanted to stream today is I'll just, I guess, go through like what we're going to be covering. The main reason I wanted to stream today is Lindsey Graham. He's dead. Bye queer icon Lindsey Graham, Disney World enjoyer Lindsey Graham. He's gone. He's gone. Rest in piss, bozo. Okay, we'll cover that more in a second. We got Iran. The Strait is officially closed again, according to Iranian media. And I think America is saying that it's not, but you know how that goes. I think there were only a couple ships that trafficked over the past couple days. So, you know, it's essentially closed. I'm going to talk about some brain drain stuff from America that's happening in recent history. Some DSA articles that sounded interesting, and some fun stuff. Particularly, I wanted to read an article about the new trend of like YouTube creepypastas and shit getting made into movies. I'm curious about what's going to happen there. Trying to get some updates on Mitch McConnell, and Apple is suing ChatGPT. Or OpenAI. So yeah, we'll get there when we get there. But first and foremost, guys, it's time to celebrate, because one of the worst people in the fucking country, one of the most genocidal, Nazi-esque people in politics, has officially died. Lindsey Graham, everybody. Lindsey Graham, like I said, queer icon. Queer icon Lindsey Graham is officially dead at 71. Now, I woke up this morning to a tweet, like a notification from x.com from, I think, Dropside about this happening. And my first response, and I think I commented on it, and said, yo, did Iran actually get one? Because I'm like, how did this happen, man? Like, how did he die? He was only 71. Like, I don't know if people know this, but like I mean, I don't mean to brag, but we can get those numbers up in our Senate, man. We got like 85-year-olds in there. Like 71, you're like a spring chicken when it comes to the United States Senate. So I was like, oh my gosh, did Iran take him out? Like, what happened? So hopefully we can get some more information on what actually happened. I'm not sure if it's actually come out yet. But we're also going to go over some reactions and stuff and see what everybody's thinking. But first, let's just listen to the breaking news and just maybe have a little bit of a party in our heads, a party together, as we learn about the sad news that queer icon Lindsey Graham is dead. Here we go.
And good evening, I'm Richard Louie, and we come on the air with some breaking news this hour for you. The Republican senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, has died at the age of 71 years old. In a statement posted on X by his office, it says, on the evening of Saturday, July 11th, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away from a brief and sudden illness. Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly difficult period. Again, that breaking news coming into a senator.
They're probably having a party. they probably all fucking hate him too.
Graham, Lindsey Graham, dead at the age of 71. Joining us now
Rest
is
in
Michael
piss,
Snell, MS Now congressional reporter.
Bye-bye.
A shock to many as we are just getting in this news here to MS Now. And Michael, what do we know? And we know that it is early.
Yeah, Richard, I mean, absolutely shocking news this morning to hear that, as you mentioned, Senator Lindsey Graham, somebody who has been an institution of the United States Senate for so many years.
There's two options here, I think. It's either like I said at the beginning, either Iran finally got one, which I don't know. I don't really think that Iran necessarily cares that much about assassinating our political leadership or whatever. Personally, because I think that they understand that doesn't really have any actual strategic significance when it comes to, geopolitical conflict. But or maybe Israel did it and it's going to try to blame Iran or something. I don't know. I don't know. I also hopefully they'll give us more information, like I said, because if they don't, I'm just going to keep speculating because he didn't really seem like he was on the verge of death or anything. Maybe he had like a blood clot or something. I don't know, but unless they give me some more info, I'm just going to keep speculating here.
Years has passed away. He was 71 years old. He was first elected to the United States Senate back in 1990, back in 2003. Before that, serving in the South Carolina House of Representatives. As you mentioned, we don't have much information right now on just what happened. I reached out to his office this morning. They're telling me that they have nothing more to add beyond that statement that went out. We are starting to get some words of love and condolences in from some who were close to him.
Oh my
We've
God.
just heard from the governor. We've just heard from the Israel Minister of Defense saying they are deeply saddened by the passing of Senator Lindsey Graham, a true friend of the state of Israel. And
yeah, because he worked for the state of Israel. That's their employee right there. They're going to have to train a whole new fucking senator. Israel's going to have to train a whole new senator for this position of being senator in chief for Israel.
One of its strongest and most steadfast supporters. So some of this information is starting to roll in. Again, as you mentioned, very early in the morning, but extremely, extremely sad news here. Sudden news, unexpected news that Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away.
Sad news? What are they talking about, man? What? Sad? Who the fuck is sad, man? I'm serious. Who the fuck is sad? Anyway, he's the fucking worst. He's the worst. Even the MAGA people don't really like Lindsey Graham because he's so fucking Israel focused on everything, or I guess the America First wing or whatever. All he ever talks about is Israel all the time. All he ever does is try to lend his support to the genocide in Palestine. That's literally all he has done in the past 2 years. I can't even think of anything else that I've seen him on TV doing other than posturing for war with Iran or trying to justify the genocide in Palestine. Those are the only two things I've seen him do in the past 3 years. So like I said at the beginning, rest in piss, bozo. We don't have to pretend to be sad when demons die. When fucking Satan himself dies, oh, I'm supposed to cry about it. Come on, man. I don't know. I think that's ridiculous. People are gonna when Nazis die, people are going to celebrate. That's just the way it goes. If you don't want people to celebrate when you die, then don't be a fucking Nazi. If you don't want the general populace at large to celebrate when you die, then don't be a fucking Nazi. That's my personal opinion. But anyway, let's see what Senator McCaskill says on Lindsey Graham's death. Apparently, she says he was very committed to the United States. There's one state in particular, the most united state, the state of Israel is his primary focus, I think. But let's go ahead and see what she has to say about this.
Think of this shocking news at the moment, Senator McCaskill. You knew him so well. Certainly a very well-known name, regardless of whether you supported him or you did not.
Yeah, obviously this is shocking. Obviously, when I think of Lindsey, I think of somebody who had every intention of staying in the Senate for his entire life. And, Lindsey...
I just read a comment. Mission accomplished, then, is what that comment says.
By Senate standards, sometimes was not one of the most elderly of the Senate. So it is shocking.
Isn't this great, man? Don't we live in a great country where 71, like I said, is a spring chicken in the Senate? This is hilarious. Like they're talking about him like he's like fresh out of college. Like he's such a young 71-year-old senator.
I think what I think is important to remember is how steadfast Lindsey was about the United States military. I mean, he was a former JAG officer, and if you ever watched Lindsey question witnesses, you could tell he'd been in a courtroom. He knew how to get the answers that sometimes witnesses did not want to give in front of the United States Senate, particularly on the Armed Services Committee. We served together on that committee for 12 years, and he was a very, very committed to the United States and our allies. He felt very strongly about supporting Ukraine, very strongly about supporting Israel, very strongly about continuing to make the military as mighty as possible.
How's that working out, by the way? How's that working out, Lindsey? As Iran like fucking demolishes us over in the Middle East, how's that working out? Where the American military and has been exposed to the entire world as a paper tiger that can't even protect it can't even protect its allies, can't even open up the Strait of Hormuz. Like it can't even do that. Trillions of dollars, and it can't even do that. Like the American military, military supremacy or whatever, is like at its weakest point that it has ever been, and it's honestly very much thanks to all of these neocons who systematically hollowed it out in order to facilitate super ultra mega profits for their fellow Epstein associates, right? Like and then also continuously over and over and over and over again getting us into unnecessary, fruitless conflicts in the Middle East and everywhere else over and over and over again. You've brought the military to the weakest point that it has ever been in its entire life. Thank you, Senator Lindsey Graham. It's the same with like Donald Trump too. Like they always like talk like they are like like they care so much about the military, or they like about its military supremacy or whatever, but in the end, because they're so like incompetent, they end up doing more damage to it than even like the most radical anti-imperialist communists could ever possibly do. Like nobody could possibly do as much damage to our military as people like Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump, because they're fucking idiots, and they overestimate the American military mind all the time. And like I said, they just constantly they allow the military to just be hollowed out as like a shell organization for funneling money to pedo billionaires at the top of our society. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. It's very ironic, you could say.
And yeah, we can find things about Lindsey that are hard to explain. And I watched Lindsey go from somebody who hung out with Joe Lieberman and John McCain, and John McCain kind of was the leader of that pack, and Lindsey was a enthusiastic member of that close friendship. And I think John McCain obviously had problems with Donald Trump. But then once we lost John McCain, Lindsey gravitated towards Donald Trump and became a close golf buddy of the president. And it was hard sometimes. It was a head scratcher to see some of the positions that Lindsey took, knowing him as I did when I served with him in the Senate. All that aside, this is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for all of his many friends and staff. And say what you will about Lindsey Graham, that he believes in public service, and for that he should. You
better believe I will. say what you will. Oh, I will.
Be celebrated.
Oh, was that last thing she said?
And say what you will about Lindsey Graham, that he believes in public service, and for that he should in fact be celebrated.
No, he shouldn't. Shut up.
Senator McCaskill, when we look at his travel schedule, we're just showing some video. He just came
This is on MS Now, by the way. This is on MS Now. This is literally on MS Now. The fucking dude. This is why the Democrats fucking lose. This is why they lose. Look at how they're covering Lindsey Graham right now. This is insane. Now, I want to be clear. The MS Now, the political establishment, the corporate Democrats and stuff, they are all going to try and do all this like mealy mouth shit about Lindsey Graham, one of the worst people like in the Senate, one of the like the biggest warmongers, one of the most genocidal fucking freaks, one of the biggest Nazis in our fucking like elected officials. Like they're going to try to like rehabilitate him, just like they tried to rehabilitate George Bush. There's never been a conservative that has died or like lost power or whatever that they haven't tried to fucking rehabilitate. But I want you to look, I think this is kind of interesting though. Let's look through the comments real quick. Like this person says he had every intention of staying in the Senate his entire life. Mission accomplished. Let's see what some of those responses are. Laughing faces. Putin killed Lindsey because the meeting was about sanctions on Putin. Both Dems and Repubs were about to negotiate the bill. Then Lindsey is dead on the way back. That's an interesting one. I didn't think about Putin. I'm going to be honest though. I would much rather, I would much more likely assume it was Iran or Israel personally, but well, he was right about that. Bingo, he did. Side eye. They say these things happens in threes. Fingers crossed. You know, like the world is a safer place. He was a warmonger. I can just see Lindsey now looking up at us. Oh, what a day. What a lovely day. First Mitch, though unconfirmed, now Lindsey. They say these things happen in threes. I'm now just waiting on the big, beautiful obituary. Grinder corporate at half mast today. Finally, some good news in America. He should have been committed a long time ago. Karma, dude, karma. No, he was not committed to the United States. He was dedicated to an ideology which included violence and pure evil. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see how the difference between how the Democrat establishment at MS Now is covering this compared to their fucking comments? The people, you don't understand how like angry the average liberal is at like, well, at the Republicans, obviously, but also at the Democrat establishment because of this exact dichotomy that we're witnessing right here, where they are trying to rehabilitate this evil individual, and the people are out for fucking blood. They want more. They want punishment. They want suffering. They're like, they want actual punishment and suffering for their political opponents. And I don't know. I just think that that's very, very interesting. Like an interesting thing to witness right here. But anyway, I'll keep going now. I just thought that was just interesting.
Back from Ukraine, and he arrived just within the last 24 hours. NBC News was reporting that he was then to go on to meet the press. What was the schedule he kept? What was the pace that he typically did have? Was it always packed as most elected officials, senators like yourself, keep at all times? Was it that sort of schedule?
Yeah, he was a very hard worker. But I will say that probably more so than many senators, he focused most of his overseas travel around our military engagement, whether it was going to a security conference.
You'll notice they're also putting a lot of photos of him with like Vladimir Zelensky, or that's his name, right? Zelensky, and like in Ukraine and stuff, as opposed to him like signing missiles for like to be lobbed onto the children of Gaza or whatever. Like, this is what I'm saying. They're trying to rehabilitate him, man. They're trying.
in Europe, or whether it was going into Afghanistan or Iraq, can't count how many times he made trips into those troubled zones when we had military on the ground there.
See, this is Ukraine. You can see the Ukraine flag over there.
Various countries in the Middle East has been, I think, a constant supporter of the Ukraine military, and I think should get some credit. You noticed that Trump.
Oh my God! You don't have to give him fucking
Ukraine
credit.
At his last NATO meeting that he attended, and Lindsey gets some credit for that. I'm sure Lindsey has been constantly urging the president to support Ukraine and to stop being so kind to Putin. That was the voice, I think,
liberals, man. I swear to God.
And obviously, I think that
I can't even say it's liberals at this point, because like I said, these people that are like leaving comments on MS Now, they are average liberals. Like, it's more just like fucking like corporate Democrats and their like the Democratic power base and their constant need to try to rehabilitate conservatives. It's like, I just don't understand where they think this goes, man. There's like, you can't keep facilitating this. You can't keep facilitating the excesses and the extremes of like right-wing ideology forever, and like think that like the average person is going to be okay with that. The average person hates these people. Like, the average person fucking hates these people's guts. And you're still out here trying to rehabilitate them. Like, back in the day, back when like they tried to rehabilitate George W. Bush and stuff, it honestly kind of worked, okay? But that was because we didn't live in this current era that we're living through, where like people understand the stakes of what's happening. People understand what MAGA is trying to do, that they are a fascist movement. And so like this sort of stuff, I think, is just really like tone deaf, that they're like how they're covering this right now, and how this senator or former Senator McCaskill is, yeah, she's not currently in the Senate, right? Claire McCaskill, I don't think so. It says in the description, former Senator Claire McCaskill, but like this sort of like, this is just so antiquated, and I don't really know who this type of like attempted rehabilitation is for at this point.
He was in Ukraine trying to drive whatever he could in terms of the decisions that have been made lately by the White House to be more supportive of Ukraine.
Yeah, as we watch more of the video and pictures from, again, Senator Lindsey Graham, as he was just returning from Ukraine after a diplomatic trip there. And as we look at this, Senator McCaskill, that trip is about 20 hours one way. He just arrived back from Ukraine. You can see certainly that he was meeting with many individuals, just based on the pictures that we're seeing right now. And in the reporting over the years, he never had necessarily difficulties medically, at least that were reported throughout the years. And so one might think, and again, you know him better, that he was fairly strong when it comes to Constitution, given his schedule, because there's no reported, if you will, major difficulties medically for him.
No, I have no recollection of Lindsey being anything but fully present for everything. In fact, sometimes too much so. But yeah, his travel schedule was.
By the way, Senator Claire McCaskill was a Democrat, in case you're curious. I guess I never mentioned that, but
was brutal, and because of his commitment to the military. And I think also, recently he has been doing a lot of shuttle diplomacy around the situation with Israel. I mean, he was one of the most strong supporters of what Trump did in Iran. And I think a lot of that was because of his relationship with Israel. And it doesn't surprise me that the Israeli Minister of Defense is already out with a strong statement of grief and sympathy. I think. Okay,
let's go ahead and see, I guess, since they were talking about it, let's go ahead and see what some of the responses from Israel have been. So let's go over here. We'll do these ones first. 1 second. Okay. So, in case anybody was curious of who, because okay, I want to start with this. Israel does not give two shits about America. Okay, I want to be absolutely clear. Israel does not give two shits about America whatsoever. They only care about what America can do for them. So when people like Benjamin Netanyahu here and Ben Gvir, when they come out and talk about like how good of a Senator Lindsey Graham is, right? How amazing he is and stuff. Trust me. They do not mean that in any way that he is good for America. They mean that he is good for Israel. And also, oftentimes, those two things are in conflict a lot nowadays. What's good for Israel is bad for America, generally speaking, or at least for the American working class. So let's go ahead and read these statements from some of the worst people in the fucking world. The man responsible for the genocide of the Palestinians, the ongoing genocide of the Palestinians, and the current ongoing genocide of the Lebanese population in southern Lebanon. He says, Benjamin Netanyahu says, Sarah and I grieve with the American people over the loss of our dear friend, Senator Lindsey Graham. In our recent meeting, I said, Lindsey is a great friend of Israel and a cherished friend of mine. We have no better friend than Lindsey. Yeah. Do you hear that? America First people out there. Do you fucking hear that? Do you hear that? What do you think that means? Lindsey understood that the security of Israel and America are inseparable. He devoted his life to defending America, strengthening our alliances, and standing up for the free world. Israel has lost one of its greatest friends. America has lost a great patriot. I have lost a beloved friend. Our hearts are with Lindsey's family and with the American people at this difficult time. May his values and initiatives continue to guide us toward victory and peace, and may his memory forever be a blessing. Lindsey Graham is dead. I don't know if that's AI or not, but that's hilarious. That's why he's in hell now. It's so funny, man. Everybody's just dunking on him. But yeah, anyway, okay, so that's what Benjamin Netanyahu said. Netanyahu himself. And then we got Ben Gvir, Itamar Ben Gvir. He's one of the most evil people in Israel right now. Today, Israel has lost one of its greatest friends. Senator Lindsey Graham stood with Israel not because it was easy, but because he believed it was right. His unwavering support, courage, and moral clarity earned him the admiration of millions of Israelis. The state of Israel will always remember his friendship, his unwavering support, and his steadfast commitment to Israel's security. Heartfelt condolences to his family and the American people. May his memory be a blessing. Yeah, so the worst people in the fucking world. He is a genocidal maniac, just like you. Good riddance. Funeral food be so good. Only the people who are sad are Israelis. Yeah. Okay. At least everybody gets it, man. And I honestly think that this kind of shit might backfire for the exact reason I just said. Everybody, I think, or most people understand that Israel does not give a shit about America whatsoever. So when Israel says shit like this, people just interpret it as, oh, well, then Lindsey Graham must have been only doing the shit that Israel wanted, not stuff that would be good for me and my people, my American citizens. So I think that this sort of stuff backfires a lot. But so that's how Israel is responding. But let's go ahead and see how I think it's Iranian state media is responding. I'm just gonna let it play and then I'll read it.
عرض کنم به درک واصل شدن لیندسی گراهام. سناتور جنگ طلب و ضد ایرانی آمریکا رو به ملت بزرگ ایران شاد باش عرض میکنم. با ادامه برنامه ها از شبکه خبر همراه باشید.
There you go. And to translate, I congratulate the Iranian nation on warmongering anti-Iran U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham being sent to hell. This is how you should cover it, people. This is how the media, I know you're not allowed to be this, this brutal or whatever in American media, but at the very least you need to be objective about how terrible of a human being Lindsey Graham is. A person who he delights, he comes his pants whenever a Palestinian baby is blown to smithereens. Like you need to just acknowledge that he is a terrible person, and the world will be a better place without him here. Let's see what other people say. This is just people complaining about the translation. I don't really care about that. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and read a quick article just so everybody can remember, because I've been dunking a lot on this loser, this like in the closet Disney World going solo Disney trip enjoyer Lindsey Graham, I've been dunking on him a lot for being a genocidal freak, but maybe I'm wrong, right? What do, like, I don't know, maybe you haven't been keeping up. So let's go ahead and read this this article by the Palestine Chronicle. Lindsey Graham dies at 71, a timeline of the Hawks' genocidal rhetoric on Gaza. Let's go ahead and read some of his his most infamous quotes, and then I'll let you be the judge if we should all enjoy a little schadenfreude or not at the death of one of the most evil people in fucking power in this country. So, by Romano Rubio. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham died at 71, ending a decades-long political career defined by hawkish foreign policy and staunch support for Israel. Key developments. Senator Lindsey Graham died Saturday following what his office described as a brief and sudden illness. Graham was one of Congress's strongest advocates of U.S. military support for Israel and a leading proponent of military action against Iran. Israeli leaders paid tribute to Graham, praising his decades-long political and diplomatic support for the occupation. Republican senator dies after brief illness. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Well, I'm just going to skip to the genocidal statements, I think. Let's read this part, actually. A leading congressional supporter of Israel. Throughout his Senate career, Graham was among the strongest advocates of U.S. military, diplomatic, and political support for Israel. Following the start of Israel's genocidal war on the Gaza Strip in October 2023, he consistently opposed calls for a ceasefire and rejected proposals to condition or restrict U.S. military assistance. He repeatedly argued that Israel was engaged in an existential war and maintained that Washington should continue providing military support without conditions, opposing congressional efforts to tie aid to compliance with international law or the protection of Palestinian civilians. Wow. Graham frequently visited Israel, meeting successive prime ministers, senior military officials, and cabinet ministers while emphasizing the importance of maintaining Israel's military superiority in the region. I already read the Israeli officials, but I didn't read this one. War Minister Israel Katz called him a true friend of the state of Israel and one of its strongest and most steadfast supporters, while National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett also praised his longstanding support for Israel. I already went over some of those. Okay, a timeline of genocidal statements. Graham's outspoken defense of Israel's military campaign in Gaza repeatedly generated international criticism. Among his most controversial remarks were repeated comparisons between Israel's bombardment of Gaza and the Allied bombing campaigns against Germany and Japan during the Second World War. You got it a little bit inverted, but okay. Well, because like we all know, right? We all know Israel are the modern day Nazis. While defending continued U.S. weapons transfers, Graham argued that the United States had ended World War II by dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and declared that Israel should do whatever you have to do to secure victory. Wants to look. People don't like, I don't even know how, like, I assume everybody understands this. Palestine, like Gaza, is an open air prison. Nothing goes in or out of it without Israel's say so. It is people who are completely controlled and dominated by their occupier, by Israel. They have no sovereignty whatsoever. They can't do anything without Israel's go ahead. And so like, so it is, I mean, look, people have made the comparisons. It is just a fucking concentration camp. It's just a huge concentration camp that they have concentrated all of these Palestinians in. And the way that they gas them is they just bomb them every like 5 years or so. Okay. And this idea of like nuking them or something is fucking insane. It's crazy. That's fucking crazy. It's a tiny ass territory that, like, my God, this is like just unhinged. And like at the very least, they're never going to nuke Gaza because that would just be, infinite radiation poisoning for Israel. So I don't think they're going to do that. But still, it's fucking like it's so genocidal, man. Below are some of the statements made by Graham since October 2023 that have drawn widespread condemnation and accusations of it advocating genocide in Gaza. Leave the place, October 2023, in an interview on Fox News shortly after October 7th. We are in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Or, sorry, level the place. I misread that. Level the place. Yeah. So there's a genocidal remark. Also, by the way, he would be thrown in, in a just world, he'd be thrown in the Hague, right? This, along with the actual actions of Israel, is genocidal intent. So he would be thrown in the Hague, or like he should be, like under, like I said, in a just world. But I guess also in a just world, he could just, die. So maybe it is a just world. Who knows? Maybe this is we're on the right track now. There's no limit on civilian casualties. Speaking to CNN, when asked if there was a threshold or limit on civilian casualties where the U.S. should tell Israel to hold off, Graham responded, no. If somebody asked us after World War II, is there a limit? What would you do to make sure that Japan and Germany don't conquer the world? Is there any limit what Israel should do to the people who are trying to slaughter the Jews? The answer is no. There is no limit. This is just such a fucking inversion, man. It's such an inversion of like power dynamics and shit. It's insane. Yeah, that's also genocidal intent. Gaza looking like Tokyo and Berlin. During the same period, Graham told Fox News that Gaza is going to look like Tokyo and Berlin at the end of World War II when this is over. And if it doesn't look that way, Israel made a mistake. Well, guess what? You got your fucking wish. You got your fucking wish, Lindsey Graham, because it does look like that. God damn it, dude. Fucking unhinged. The nuclear threat. May 2024. In an interview on NBC News Meet the Press, Graham defended Israel's right to use absolute force by citing America's atomic bombings of Japan. When we were faced with destruction as a nation after Pearl Harbor, fighting the Germans and the Japanese, we decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state, whatever you have to do. Fucking Jesus Christ, man. By the way, I don't know, a lot of people aren't very knowledgeable about this whole situation. The war was already over by the time America decided to use nuclear bombs. I mean, not like officially over, but I mean, it was basically over. It was just a completely unnecessary war crime that in no way would have actually changed anything whatsoever. It was just something that we did in order to kill as many civilians as possible, just because we could. It did not change the trajectory whatsoever. It was completely unnecessary. But anyway, yeah, like I said at the beginning, though, or like earlier, Israel's never going to nuke Gaza or anything, because that, like I said, it's just infinite radiation poisoning for Israel. But my God, it's so unhinged. Advocate of military confrontation with Iran. Beyond his support for Israel, Graham was widely regarded as one of Washington's most hawkish policymakers on Iran, especially, well, that's just because of his support for Israel. Let's be real. Iran is in no way an actual threat to America, so the only reason to be supportive of going to war with Iran is on behalf of the nation state of Israel. So for years, he urged successive U.S. administrations to adopt a more confrontational posture towards Tehran, advocating harsher sanctions, direct military action against Iranian nuclear facilities, and expanded operations against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Well, guess what? You got your wish, and it's not turning out exactly how you thought, is it, Lindsey Graham? I'm sure you're looking up from hell right now, being like, I can't wait, man. Let's see. I can't wait for the end of this war to see what actually comes out of it. Because I have a feeling it's going to look pretty bad for America. I mean, it already does, to be honest. We've already completely destroyed our global military hegemony or whatever, just because of how ineffective we were at trying to open the Strait of Hormuz, and how we were unable to protect any of our allies during this conflict. As tensions between the U.S. and Israel and Iran escalated, Graham repeatedly called for direct American military involvement, arguing that diplomacy should give way to force if Iran's nuclear program continued. His rhetoric extended beyond Iran. He supported the 2003 invasion of Iraq, defended prolonged U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan, and backed intervention in Libya and Syria, making military power a defining feature of his foreign policy outlook. There you go, people. Some of the worst fucking statements, man. Some of the worst of the worst. And so, look, it might be uncouth It might be, some people might call it inappropriate, but I think that I represent the vast majority of, at the very least, of Democrats or liberals. But I think even some, like America Firsters or whatever, and saying, good fucking riddance, goodbye, bye-bye, rotten hell, rest in piss, bozo. Fucking loser ass in the closet, homosexual, like Disney World, like going to Disney World by himself, has no friends, has no life. Yeah, rest in piss, bozo. Go enjoy your stay in hell. I'm sure you will. I'm sure that you are going to love it. Here's the picture of him at Disney World again. This is actually, let's do this first, and then we'll end on the picture. Okay, let's just watch. Jackson Hinkle posted this picture. Describe Lindsey Graham with one word. Let's see what people are saying. Dead. Ding dong, the evil cuck is dead. This was one of the architects of brutality. Humanity is better off without him. That is not one word. I'm sorry. Lucky Chair 20. This is the one that I would have thought too. This meme is perfect. Gay. Hot. What? Oh, because he's in hell. I get it. Psycho. And then some, some of those statements that I just read already. Miga, make Israel great again. I guess it's Miga. I don't know. I'm always a little uncomfortable saying MIGA because I'm like, that sounds a little too close to another word that I'm not allowed to say. So, anyway, it's not one word, but, yeah, the war fairy, still not one word, but okay. Well, there we go. That's what they're thinking. And yeah, like I was showing before, let's end this because I think that this is what's happening right now for Lindsey. I think that what happened after he died is he went up to the gates of heaven, and this was what it looked like. It was in the form of Disney World, and he had his little toy and he had his like lollipop, and he was going up there, and on the other side of the gate were just a whole bunch of like jacked shirtless dudes. And he got to the gate and he was like, yo, is it Paul? Is it St. Paul or whatever? I can't remember. He's like, yo, Paul, oh, that looks amazing in there. It looks just like Disney World, except there's hot shirtless dudes. Can you please let me in? And then he was like, the fuck you talking about? You genocidal monster? And they pulled the lever, and then he fell down into hell, where there's probably still a lot of buff shirtless dudes, but they're all, they're all spitting in his face, which maybe he likes. So I don't know. I don't know where that was going. When you're streaming, it's just like you're just doing a stream of consciousness. So it is what it is. Anyway, that's the Lindsey Graham segment. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we're 53 minutes in. Let's go ahead and talk about Iran a little bit. So we got CENTCOM. U.S. launches new round of strikes against Iran. So yeah, I think that the main things that have happened since the last time we talked is that there's been more strikes, I think, by Iran and more strikes by America. And I believe that Iran has stated that they are officially closing the Strait of Hormuz again. So that global energy supply crisis is still, still on the table because, like I kind of talked about before, during this like MOU, like temporary time where like some ships were getting out and stuff, like I only think there were like a couple hundred, like maybe like a couple hundred ships that got out. Or like maybe like a few hundred. I don't know. Like I can't remember exactly, but like not a ton got out, but maybe enough to like kind of staunch the bleeding, at least the worst parts of like what's going on with the global energy supply. But I also know America is getting really, really low on its stockpiles still. So So I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Let's go ahead and watch this movie, or not movie, this video from MS Now.
And good evening. I'm Richard Louie in New York. We have some late-breaking news out of the Middle East to report on. According to U.S. Central Command, the U.S. has now begun a third round of strikes against Iran after its Revolutionary Guard fired a warning shot at a cargo vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran saying now that that ship was using a, quote, unauthorized route. Iran now declaring the Strait of Hormuz closed. That is what is new this hour. In response to CENTCOM's announcement, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying on X, quote, Iran made a poor choice. Now they pay. Joining us now is MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode. And David, as we lead up to this, there certainly was some kinetic action in the last 24 to 48 hours. What is new is that they are declaring it's closed.
Yeah, that's the difference, is that essentially the Trump administration issued an ultimatum. They demanded that Iran announced that the Strait was open, not closed. And the response from the Iranians was to fire on a ship and say the Strait is closed. And now the U.S. is responding with airstrikes. I think, basically this conflict has resumed. It's not at the level it was, I think, on February 28th when the war began and much of the Iranian leadership was killed. But I think it's fair to say at this point that the war between the United States and Iran has resumed at a lower level. But, there's no part of the memorandum of understanding that was signed several weeks ago, at this point appears to be in effect.
Now, this is the third round that CENTCOM has said and as being reported at the moment in terms of response to Iran coming from the U.S. What were the first two? Do we know what that kinetic action was?
Yeah, it's the same pattern. Basically, you see this over and over again. Someone posted this on X, but I completely agreed. You essentially have, there's some sort of agreement between the U.S. and Iran. At some point after that, Iran will fire on a ship that is somehow crossing the strait or operating in a way that the Iranians don't want. And then Iran will fire on that ship, and that's happened twice before. And then the U.S. responds with airstrikes, usually in southern Iran, along the coast, as the map shows, near the Strait of Hormuz. And then Iran typically responds then with longer range missile and drone strikes on U.S. bases. We've seen that in Bahrain. They actually attacked an American base in Jordan. And then what happens is intermediaries, the Pakistanis and the Qataris, come in and the situation calms down. But it's this same pattern of, things calming down, the U.S. demanding the strait be fully open, the Iranians essentially not agreeing to that. And then we just go round and round here.
Yeah. So what I think happened, so here's the thing. I think that what's kind of happening is America was forced, right, to sign this MOU. It was forced because the global energy supply and also its own oil reserves were getting to the critically low, right? They were getting critically low. And that forced, Trump even said it. He said it in a speech. He said, if I had kept going, then it would have been a global catastrophe or whatever. If I had not stopped, it would have been or if I had not signed it, then it could have been a global catastrophe or whatever, right? He said something along those lines. So I see this as a respite, right, for America to get some ships out to try to the minimum amount of ships so that they can then go back into war, go back into war again. And I'm going to be honest, I do not think that this is going to be the only time that this happens, right? What I expect to happen is that we're going to be in this hot conflict again for I don't know, another couple weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know how long, to be honest. I'm just kind of guesstimating, but And then Trump will come back to the table. He will be like, we are going to sign the memorandum of understanding again. We're back in negotiations. It's open for business. And then they're going to get another like 200, 300 ships out. And then they're going to start bombing them again. And I just feel like we're going to do this a few times. Now, that's assuming that Iran doesn't actually do what they need to do to actually stop this from just being a forever conflict, which is kind of what it looks like it's turning into to me, is that this is like how the forever conflict is going to go now, is that this like we just keep opening and closing the strait like slowly, but to get the bare minimum amount of oil out to stop like the worst aspects of the global oil or global energy catastrophe. And it kind of feels like we're just going to keep doing that over and over again forever, unless Iran finally decides to like continue escalating again, which is, I don't know, man. Like I always say, like, they're the experts, like they know more than I do. So like when they decide to accept the MOU and stuff based on America's like word that they're going to get these things, like I'm like, well, maybe they have a plan. They know better than me. They have all the information. So like I kind of trust them to make the right decision. But like I always like thought that like you can't really like I thought that this wouldn't ever end unless you actually made America pay like significantly. And a part of that I felt was like waiting, like actually causing, for instance, the global energy catastrophe to happen for a little bit, right? Like actually forcing that to happen. Like even if America starts begging for like a ceasefire or like giving you more terms or whatever, being like, no, we don't want them. Like actually like letting that catastrophe happen, at least for a short amount of time. Get gas prices up to like $7-8 a gallon. Get like rolling blackouts in in Europe for like a week or two, and then be like, okay, now we're ready to do it. Or alternatively, if they go back into full hot war conflict, continue shooting like missiles at Israel and the various bases around the region until America runs out of interceptors, which would have been like another 6 weeks or so. And then after that, keep pummeling them for another 2 to 3 weeks. Be like, no, we're the ones, like even after America's like, okay, no, we need a ceasefire, we need time to restock, blah blah blah. Be like, no, we're going to keep shooting for the next 2 to 3 weeks on like without you being able to stop any of them, and just like do that, like so that America would see that like, okay, there's nothing we can do, right? You know what I'm saying? There, like, it feels like, and it's hard to say because like sometimes you think America knows that there's nothing that they can do. But then as soon as you give them like literally anything, like, and I'm saying like the bare minimum, like even acknowledging that you are going to sign the memorandum of understanding, America just interprets that in like the most unhinged way possible, as you're like capitulating or whatever, and will then go right back into posturing like they're the strongest person in the world, like when they clearly lost the war militarily. But now that the war is not currently like a hot war that's ongoing, that's like a daily reminder that they're losing the war, they like forget and they start to fall back into their old like feelings of like superiority and like that, like, oh, they're actually capitulating, we can add more pressure now or whatever, like. So I just think that this isn't going to end until Iran finally decides to actually go the extra mile, man. Like they've gone like I would always look back to like the difference between how much they tried to negotiate with the West over like the course of like decades, like what little they got from that and how quickly that was thrown away with Donald Trump tossing out the JCPOA, compared to what they accomplished with just like, a couple weeks, like 5-6 weeks of like hot war kinetic conflict. What they got America to agree to, even if America isn't going to follow through with it, like significantly better than the JCPOA. And all it took was like 6 weeks of war. Like if you do it again for another 6 weeks when America runs out of like missiles and interceptors, like eventually America does have to like face reality. Like it just does, So I don't know. That's kind of my opinion, at least when it comes to like Iran's like the like playbook that they could play, or that like what cards they could play and stuff.
Here, the difference is that the amount of U.S. strikes The last round, I think in these strikes was over 100 U.S. strikes. In the past, there have been smaller amounts of strikes in these rounds of these confrontations, maybe a few dozen, but now we're in over 100. So one thing to watch is how widely the airstrikes that Secretary Hegseth announced, how many targets they're hitting. Because the question is this all intensifying and escalating and growing?
It's not that, I mean, that shouldn't really be the question we're asking. How many targets they're hitting is kind of a worthless thing to ask. Because like, it's like, what are they hitting, right? Is it like, will what they're hitting change anything strategically? Like, well, like that's the questions that I would ask. I feel like they're just hitting the same things over and over again. Because that's just what flailing empires do when they don't really know what to do, when they can't win strategically. They just tend to just like continuously hit the same things over and over again, just as like busy work and stuff.
And that's what we'll see based on these U.S. strikes.
Now, from what we're hearing from various news sources here, David, is that this happened about an hour and a half ago, more or less, in terms of what Reuters is reporting. In addition to that, this declaration has not yet specifically established, this according to the AP, whether or not this means all ships are not allowed through in terms of effectively closed. The ship itself, according to AP, was a Cyprus-flagged container ship. When we look at this complexity of what closed and not closed is, this is not necessarily complexity we have not seen before.
It isn't, but what matters for both sides is exactly, and the thing for viewers to watch is how many ships are actually getting through, and the answer is very few. Soon after this memorandum of understanding was signed, it got back up to, I believe, 50 to 60 to 70 ships a day were crossing back through the Straits. That's not at the level it was before the war. That was about 130 on average. But in the last few days, the traffic has ground to a halt again. It's down to 10, 20 ships at most. And so, again, the big picture here, as these we go through these cycles, it's that fuel isn't getting through the Strait. So you will see oil prices rise, and you could see prices rise in the U.S. Inside Iran, this also means that ships aren't getting back into Iran. So Iran's not receiving food. It's not able to sell oil. So it's a difficult situation for Iranian civilians.
I mean, look, I think that we overestimate how much economic impact this really has on Iran. Truly, like I really do. Like I always said, there's other alternatives for Iran. They first of all, they have other exports. Second of all, they can use land routes if they have to. Like it's not as efficient, sure, but they can use it. But then also, like, I think that they can, like, I think that they were exporting even when America had its blockade up. I think that they were just using shadow fleet tankers. And yes, America might have tried and maybe even succeeded in stopping some of them, but I think that they failed on the majority of them. So, like, I don't know. I think that there was still oil flowing from, like, to some extent from Iran, from Iran, but I just don't think there was oil flowing from all of the other countries that use it. So anyway, and I think like who Iran was like exporting that to was also probably being decided by them. But okay, let's see what this is. Just, I think, like a post from U.S. CENTCOM, but it says, traffic is flowing. U.S. insists Strait of Hormuz is open to all after Iran claimed to close it. The Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels, and U.S. military forces are positioned and prepared to ensure freedom of navigation, U.S. CENTCOM says, a day after U.S. and Iranian forces exchanged fire, and Iran said it had closed the vital waterway. Iran does not control the Strait, CENTCOM adds. Traffic is flowing. Iran's IRGC Navy said yesterday that it had closed the Strait of Hormuz until further notice and until the end of U.S. interference in the region. If Iran says it's closed, man. Like, what? This is like, I still don't understand. Like, I literally still don't understand. Who can possibly believe this? Like, use your brain. What can America do in this circumstance? This strait is like just off the coast of Iran. It's like a 20-mile long thing or something, I think, just off the coast of Iran, of Iran. Every single one of their drones can hit anything in the Strait of Hormuz. Every single one of their missiles can hit anything in the Strait of Hormuz. Like, what can America possibly do? If America sends their ships too close, then American ships will get hit in the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that's why they stay so fucking far away. That's why they did the secondary blockade as opposed to actually like moving ships in and out of the strait in the first place, right? Like when they were developing their plan to try to deal with this, instead of like sending ships in to escort stuff, they decided not to do that because they were scared of getting hit. Nothing has changed in that regard. Iran still has all of that capacity. So if Iran says it's closed, it's closed. Let's see. So this is some of the results, I guess, from Iran's recent strikes. Smoke rises from the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Manama, Bahrain. Iran has reportedly struck U.S. military sites in Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait. So UAE is getting hit. I didn't think that they were getting hit last time I saw, but okay. So that's interesting as well. Because I thought maybe they were making a back deal or something to stop from getting hit, but yeah. Okay. And what was this one? Jeremy Scahill. A senior Iranian official told me that the White House engaged in a deliberate media disinformation campaign, including through Axios and CBS, claiming Iran blamed a recent attack on a vessel in Hormuz on a rogue sect within the Iranian military, and that Tehran was considering an announcement with Oman about opening new transit routes in the Strait. I think that I saw these articles and I was like, there's no fucking way. Like, my bullshit detector like was blaring when I saw that shit. Because Iran doesn't have any reason to not take credit for these strikes, right? And the Iranian military did, I think, take credit for them, saying exactly why they were doing it. So, yeah. This wasn't random. It was a very deliberate and coordinated media campaign designed to pressure us into changing our decision. The official said we had already clearly told the Qataris and Omanis about our firm and final decision. Iran will not allow anyone to disrupt our security and oversight management of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian official said the U.S. is putting major pressure on Oman and added that the idea of opening an alternative lane in Hormuz outside of Iranian management actually came from the American side. Of course. Of course. I guarantee you, they're trying to wrestle away like some form of like control over the strait that they weren't able to achieve through military means, and it's just not possible. That's not how war works. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you like if your war effort completely fails, why would you think you still have any leverage whatsoever over the circumstances going forward? Like, you weren't able to acquire the Strait of Hormuz militarily, so why would they just offer that up to you? That's stupid. That would be stupid of them to do. They're not going to do that because they've already won it. We clearly and firmly shared our final position with the Omanis and mediators, the official said. The movements we've seen in Hormuz over the last few hours are the practical implementation of that exact decision we announced. Let me just read a little bit of this real quick, kind of related. Let's just read this last section here. This is about the strategic petroleum reserves. But I'm just reading this last section. I think this is from July 9th. So what, 3 days ago? It was 2026, right? Just want to make sure I don't have the wrong year. Yeah. Okay. The SPR serves two purposes. It provides emergency supplies when physical shortages emerge, but it also reassures financial markets that governments have tools available to respond to major disruptions, aka manipulate the money. If the U.S. decides not to release oil from the reserve, it will affect supply and demand because there will be less supply. It would also affect market perception as markets expect the U.S. to tap its reserves. If that doesn't happen, it sends a signal that the situation is more severe than expected. That would have a compounded impact on global oil prices, Sonnen added. Knowing millions of barrels can be released during a crisis can help calm markets and reduce speculative buying that often amplifies price spikes. A smaller reserve gives policymakers less wiggle room if the conflict rages on. That reassurance has become more limited as inventories have fallen. Eric Natal, senior portfolio manager at 9 Point Partners, has warned that the reserve is approaching its minimum operating level in a post on X. Rajendran is also worried that half of the 319.5 million barrels in the reserve may not be usable. Some of the crude in there has been there for a long time. It's in old storage caverns and stuff. So I think you could certainly argue that maybe 100 to 150 million barrels of what's left in it is not necessarily usable for current refiners and for export grade, Rajendran added. Yeah, so look, there's two levels from what I remember. There's the critically low level, which I think we're about in. Like, I think we're almost at like critically low, but then there's like minimum operating capacity, which is even lower. My understanding was that if the blockade had kept up from like, and we didn't have this interim like memorandum of understanding, like where maybe a few hundred ships got out or whatever. My understanding was that around now is when we would be reaching the critical levels, and around September, and this is for global, I think, and not just America, but in around September is when we would be reaching like minimum critical levels, or like the minimum operating level. According to this guy, we're already approaching minimum operating levels. So I think that we're still going to see a lot of that, especially if Iran is closing the Strait again. Like only 300-ish, or like 200 to 300 ships got out during that memorandum of understanding time, I think. So or actually, let me see if I can fact check that. How many ships got out of Strait of Hormuz during ceasefire, or during MOU? 513 ships is the estimate. According to Google AI, take it with a grain of salt. So around 500 ships got out, which is the equivalent of, I think, if I remember correctly, there was like 100 a day being shipped before the war started. So like 5 days worth of like actual normal capacity got out during that time period. So like, I don't know. I don't think that's going to do a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. America will come crawling back when it becomes, like when it becomes more obvious that that there's nothing they can do. And then we'll see what happens. But it just feels like we're just going to be going back and forth in this sort of situation for a while. So like I keep saying, I think this is going to be a long conflict. I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon. I would say at least till the midterms, probably even longer. I'd say this will rage into next year for sure, but we'll see. I like that it keeps going back to my Mecha Chameleon thing, because that's like on the left side of my tab groups or whatever. Okay, well, that was kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and read a short article, or relatively short article, from the South China Morning Post. I think the South China Morning Post is like the main publication that I know of from China. So like, or it's like where I read, like if I'm reading my China articles, like articles about China, 9 times out of 10, I'm reading from the South China Morning Post. So I can't remember if there's any actual government ownership or anything of this particular media organization. I also don't know exactly how China organizes their like media industry either. So, I'm sure that there's some potentially control by the CCP or whatever, but even so, it's still probably more accurate than American media, which is controlled by Epstein affiliates. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got one or the other, right? It's being controlled by Epstein affiliates or it's being controlled by the government. Like, pick your poison. So anyway, let's go ahead and read this. 10 scientists and experts who have left the US and UK for China so far in 2026. The reason that I decided I wanted to read this article was because I had seen a recent video talking about the Chinese space program and how it was somebody that we, let me think. I can't remember what his name was. There was a person that we like deported or like we kicked out of our country during like the McCarthyite era, I think, for just being Chinese and being like, I think he had like, you know, met with people in China one time. But he wanted to be an American and he wanted to live in America, but we kicked him out of the country. And so he went over to China and he brought all of his expertise and all of his understanding when it came to you know, space technology over to China, and then they got to benefit from all of that, all because America was, you know, so ideologically opposed to just the vague, like, not serious threat of communism. You know what I'm saying? Like, that they just like he left the country, and that's what a lot of like that's what we call brain drain, right? When your experts, your best and brightest, smartest individuals leave the country or don't or decide not to immigrate to the country because of your government and because of your government policies. So let's read this article. This is about, I guess, 10 scientists and experts who have left US and UK for China in 2026. So, you know, this isn't, that was way back in the day, but I think it kind of portended, like, you know, this was obviously always going to happen. As America declines as the global hegemon, as America declines as a superpower, and America becomes more racist, more authoritarian, less of a good place for people to, like, send their kids to school and stuff, which, like, America has largely been a place where like upper class Chinese, like, citizens would often send their kids because it's considered this, like, prestigious thing to do just because of America's position as the global hegemon. I think that a lot of that is starting to change now, though, with the rise of China becoming the obvious next global hegemon and America's declining power. That a lot of people, I think, are starting to, like, rethink that, and they're starting to, instead of sending their best and brightest or whatever over to America, they're considering sending them over to China. And there's also people who are in America or were in America or the UK in this particular article, who are deciding to just immigrate back to China just due to opportunity and stuff. So let's go ahead and read it. Who wrote this? I guess I don't see any author listed, so maybe it was just the editorial team or something. Dozens of scientists and experts have left the United States and Britain to pursue their careers in China this year, citing several reasons, including insufficient funding and a lack of opportunities for Chinese academics to lead projects in the West. We have put together 10 of them whose stories resonated with our readers. If you would like to see more of our reporting, please consider subscribing. Yeah, this must just be from the editorial team. Okay. Impossible for Chinese. Yale scientist Zhang Kai leaves U.S. for China. For Zhang Kai, a pioneering scientist who is building an ultra-large-scale cellular structure group data bank with unprecedented precision, returning home to China was the natural choice to fulfill his ambition. All of these look like they link to articles. I'm not going to read any of them unless I find them particularly interesting. Energy scientist Chen Pei leaves Cambridge to build her own lab in Hong Kong. For some early career scientists, the prestige of British academia is being marred by shrinking research funding and a complex geopolitical climate, prompting top-tier talent to look elsewhere for stability and resources. Nobel-winning scientist Omar Yaghi joins China's Tsinghua University from the U.S. Omar Yaghi, the winner of last year's Nobel Prize for Chemistry, has joined China's Tsinghua University to lead a new AI-driven research center. Chinese black hole hunting scientist Dai Liang quits U.S. for Shanghai Post. Black holes, by the way, are some of my favorite things to like learn about. So this one is particularly a shame for me. A physicist who was awarded a fellowship reserved for the brightest young scientists in the U.S. and Canada for his work hunting for black holes has returned to China. Rising star chip scientist Jiang Xianfeng leaves MIT for Peking University. Most academics take 8 to 10 years after earning a PhD to become doctoral supervisors, but semiconductor scientist Jianfeng has done it in just 18 months. Ooh, smarty pants. Noted neurobiologist and ex-Taekwondo captain Qi Ying Su leaves U.S. for China. Celebrated neurobiologist Qi Ying Su, who specializes in research on the sense of smell using fruit flies and mosquitoes, has left her position as a faculty vice chair at the University of California, San Diego, to join the Shenzhen Academy of Medical Sciences. I'm always curious how much of this is because of like actual academic decisions, like they think that they have better opportunities, versus how much of it is like America is becoming more authoritarian, more racist, getting treated less, like getting treated more poorly, potentially being rounded up by ICE and thrown in a concentration camp. Like, I'm always curious, like, which of these things are weighing more. If I had to guess, it's probably the former more than anything, because I think that a lot of, elites are probably more insulated. Like, a lot of these people are in elite circles, like, let's be honest. So a lot of them are probably a lot more insulated from just the normal, like racist violence that people who are working day jobs as like construction workers and stuff are. So like, so I would probably guess it's the former more than the latter when it comes to these people. But AI scientist Ling Haibin, father of the first plant ID app, leaves U.S. for China. AI scientist Ling Haibin, the acclaimed computer scientist behind the world's first mobile plant identification app, has left his position in the United States to take up a full-time role at Westlake University in Hangzhou, eastern China. North America's top computer vision scientist, Liang Ji, returns to China. 20 years ago, technologies developed by Liang Ji at Microsoft were incorporated into products like the Windows Media Video Player. Okay. Okay, Blu-ray disc is more important, but the Windows Media Video Player is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a shame to put like your it's like doing a ton of research to to put your software in like Bing or something, like you do all this awesome research and then they put it in this like shitty ass package or whatever that comes with like that nobody likes, that's like bloated and comes with and like pre-installed on like Windows machines and stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I feel a little bad for him there. That's probably why he left. That's probably why he left. It's like, my stuff has to be in fucking Windows Media Player. Come on. Award-winning memory chip expert leaves U.S. for job at Chinese semiconductor firm. An expert on semiconductor packaging and memory chips has left the University of California, Irvine, after more than 2 decades to join a leading conductive materials company in eastern China. World-leading EV motor expert joins Hong Kong Poly U after 38 years in Britain. Well, of course. Like, you're going to try to do electric vehicles in Britain? You're trying to do electric vehicles in America? Are you kidding me? Of course you go to China. That's where it's happening. That's where the future of energy lies. Like, if you're doing any sort of energy research or like any sort of like anything that has to do with like, energy production or whatever, like you got to go to China. Like they're the people who excel in that. Unlike America and Britain, who are like, just like they're like that dude from Napoleon Dynamite who like is reflecting on like how he used to be able to like throw a football so far, and he could totally throw a football over that mountain over there if you want him to try it out or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're living in the past, man. There's nothing there. Like you're trying to like make oil happen again. It's already over, buddy. Like, come on. Like, don't get me wrong. Oil is still going to be important for for lots of things going forward, but it's going to become less and less important for energy production going forward. Like that's just the case because we have infinite energy being beamed onto us from a giant nuclear reactor in the sky called the sun every day. It's like, why not just take that free fucking energy? You know what I'm saying? Zhu Ziqiang. I'm not very good with like Chinese pronunciations, like Mandarin pronunciations and stuff, so forgive me. One of the world's leading experts in electric motor engineering has left his 4-decade career in Britain to take up a full-time position at Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Well, there you go. 10 of the best and brightest leaving for greener pastures. Greener energy pastures, solar farm pastures over in China. I also heard, I thought it was an interesting thing the other day of like how America like takes like our deserts and we try to like live in them. Like for instance, like places like Arizona and stuff, like these like massive deserts that like America for some reason tries to like have people live in them and like have like green lawns and stuff in them and stuff. Whereas like China like takes their deserts and they just like load them the fuck up with solar panels. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we don't need to live in the desert, right? Like maybe we don't need to live in the desert. Maybe we could also just put a shit ton of solar power panels out there and just have free energy for like, I don't know, the California or whatever. Like, I don't know. Just a thought. Kind of unrelated, but I just started thinking about that when I started thinking about green energy. So it's my show. I can ramble about whatever the fuck I want. Okay, that's the China portion. Let's go to let's read a couple articles about DSA. I just saw a couple articles that caught my eye, so I'm just going to read them, see what's going on. We have 2 articles here. We got New York Times and we got New York Post. I'm sure that they will have the exact same tone and timbre, but there's only one way to find out. Okay, this is from the New York Times. The Democratic Socialists winning elections far from New York. I'll probably start by reading the article and then I'll give my thoughts. I think sometimes I front load stuff a little too much. Okay, so I'm just going to start over. The Democratic Socialists winning elections far from New York City. They won Democratic state legislative primaries in Buffalo and Syracuse, showing how the party's messaging and ground game can work outside New York City. This is by Benjamin Orsex and Mark Sommer. And this is from July 12th, 2026. As the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America, Megan Romer has worked for plenty of campaigns and knocked on all sorts of doors across the country. But for Miss Romer, there is something special about Buffalo that made it the best canvassing city in the country. And it's not just because she hails from nearby Cayuga County. Everybody has got a front porch, she said. It's such a nice place to spend a Saturday talking to voters. Ms. Romero speaks from recent experience. She was part of a volunteer team that knocked on around 25,000 doors in the western Buffalo area, helping Adam Bojack to a decisive win in last month's 3-way Democratic primary for state assembly seat. If Mr. Bojack wins in November, he will become the state legislature's first Democratic Socialist to represent western New York. for this particular district, I don't know how competitive it is when it comes to Democrat versus Republican. So if they don't tell me in this, I don't feel like looking it up. But roughly 150 miles to the east in nearby Syracuse, a similar army of fired up volunteers knocked on thousands of doors in support of Maurice Brown, a Democratic Socialist. The effort paid off. Mr. Brown narrowly defeated Assemblyman William B. Magnarelli. Oh, that sounds Italian. Uh-oh. Is this more Italian erasure from Zoran Mamdani? This is a reference, by the way, to I guess he forgot to put like the Italian flag on like the enclaves of New York or something, and all of the Italian Americans freaked the fuck out. So I don't know. Maybe it's broader than Zoran. Maybe the DSA is also anti-Italian American. Anyway, narrowly defeated Assemblyman William B. Magnarelli, a 28-year incumbent, by 82 votes, a primary that saw about 6,700 people cast their ballots. 82 votes, that's close. The primaries in New York last month underscored the continued emergence of the left as a political force. Nowhere was that more evident than New York City, where two Democratic socialists defeated more established rivals in Democratic House contests, and another leftist candidate took down a House incumbent. But for national Democrats wrestling with how to channel the enthusiasm for populist outsiders without alienating general election voters in November, the victories in Buffalo and Syracuse, hundreds of miles from New York City and its Democratic Socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani, might also prove instructive. Yeah. I mean, look, this is so frustrating to me because we already have stats about this. Zoran Mamdani overperformed with Trump voters. Previous Trump voters voted for Zoran Mamdani at like higher levels, right? Than they had voted for other previous mayors. Like, we already have the Democratic Socialists of America's like strategy for messaging to like disaffected Trump voters or Republicans or independents worse. It works way better than neoliberal centrism, like consultant speak. Like, of course it does. I mean, really, it should be common sense. Like, in my opinion, it should be common sense. But we have stats now to back it up. Like, anyway, let's see how the New York Times, this new information that's making its way to the New York Times. Let's see how they interpret it. Give me one sec. I have to drink a lot of coffee while I'm reading this because for some reason I think that I just don't project right or something, or my voice isn't built for talking for long periods of time, so I always end up losing my voice as I read more and more articles for you guys. But I power through the pain because you guys deserve it. But for national Democrats wrestling with how to channel the enthusiasm for populists, I just read that. Candidates and organizers said in interviews that voters seemed to care most about affordability and had a sense that government was in need of generational change. That thirst for change was evident in Buffalo. Bonnie Bullard, a nanny who lives on Buffalo's densely populated west side, where Mr. Bojack received just under 66% of the vote, said that she felt compelled to vote for Mr. Bojack after he was endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders, a Democratic socialist from Vermont. I am tired of politics as usual, not just with the Republican Party, but also with the Democratic Party. I feel Democratic socialists are listening to the everyday person. See? This is what I'm telling you. This messaging works. This messaging works, man. It works. They're going to try to propagandize against it. They will. They're going to do their best, but they can't stop it because it's an effective strategy. And it's an effective strategy that was neglected by the Democrats because the Democratic Party doesn't want to actually offer material improvements to the working class. That's the problem. That's the problem, is that the establishment in the Democratic Party doesn't actually want to do that. And so they're unable to do this type of messaging. But that is exactly why it's inevitable that people who do actually want to do that and do want to improve the material conditions of the working class will inevitably defeat them because they're playing with like their hands tied behind their back. The Democratic Party is playing with their hands tied behind their back. The Republican Party is also in some regard, less of a regard, also playing with their hands tied behind their back, because they, like, I guess what I would say is they don't have as much of a problem with it because they can just lie, and the corporate oligarchs that back them will know that they're lying and know that they won't do anything. This is a lot like, this is how Trump came to power, is because he just like lied, that like he pretended to have some left populist like, you know, proclivities when it comes to the economy than previous Republican candidates did. But the corporations and stuff were fine with that because they knew he wasn't going to do anything about it. But anyway, so like that same thing that like that is causing obviously all of the corporations, the centers of power in America to come after the DSA. It's also a benefit for the DSA too, and can be wielded as a benefit because, number one, people hate those people anyway. So when they're attacking you, that's a good thing, right? That means that you're looking better. When the Democrat establishment and neoliberalism, the neoliberal hacks and consultant class are all attacking you, that gives you more, not less. That gives you more credibility. But then also, you don't have to mealy mouth your way around these concepts. You don't have to be like for instance, you can just openly say, yeah, I want to take all of the money from billionaires, or yeah, I want to create single payer healthcare. I want to completely and totally eliminate the insurance industry. It's superfluous. We don't need it, right? You can go out there and just say those things, where the Democratic Party is not able to go, like the corporate centrists are not allowed to go out and say that because that's a no-no to their donors, right? Anyway, sorry, that was a little bit of a ramble, but let me get back to the article. And let me get a drink of coffee. Christine McMullen, a 35-year-old tattoo artist, agreed. I think sometimes traditional Democrats are more worried about making their donors happy. What did I just say? Where socialists are more concerned about what they can do for people. Said Miss McMullen, who works at Crucible Art Collective on the west side of Buffalo. Mr. Bojack and Mr. Brown said they were somewhat surprised that their ties to the DSA did not elicit more skepticism or curiosity. Just 5 years ago, India Walton, a Democratic socialist who had an upset victory in the Democratic primary for mayor in Buffalo, lost in the general election. Her opponent, Byron Brown, the incumbent mayor at the time, when was this? 5 years ago? Okay, buddy. The incumbent mayor of the time ran an aggressive write-in campaign that portrayed her as an extremist. That was 5 years ago, buddy. Things have changed. Things have changed significantly. That was before Trump. That was before Trump too. Do you understand that? Like, people are more pissed at the Democratic Party now than they have ever fucking been, because the Democratic Party establishment decided that their strategy for Trump this time was to roll over and die. Let MAGA do whatever the fuck it wants, and then hope that that became so unpopular that they could ride that anti-Trump wave back into power. That was their strategy. That is pissing off a significant portion of the Democratic Party base. We are in a completely different era. This is irrelevant, in my personal opinion, this thing from 5 years ago. I think it was also close, by the way. I think that it was also close, if I remember correctly. But still, that was 5 years ago. This is different. We also have Zoran. Zoran changed everything for DSA. I won't lie. I think that he reignited the DSA as a organizing movement. So there's that as well. But the candidate said that the attention given to Mr. Mamdani's win last year has made voters in Western and Central New York more comfortable with the Democratic Socialist brand. Bernie Sanders chipped away at that, but then Zoran Mamdani was a huge help, Mr. Bojack said. Dude, I feel like I'm just predicting 2 paragraphs in advance. Maybe I should stop talking and just read it, because they all just say what I expect them to say based on my understanding of the world and my understanding of politics. He continued. Zoran wasn't successful because he talked about being a socialist. Exactly. He just said what he was going to do. Our messaging is broadly popular. People want to tax the rich and expand childcare. I don't care what letter is next to their name. Yep. Maxwell Bowman, who helps lead the DSA's Buffalo chapter, said that after Mr. Mamdani's victory last year, the chapter saw its membership grow from around 200 members to about 500 members. That's that Mamdani bump, baby. I was part of that too. I had been wanting to be fair, I had been wanting to join DSA for a while, but the Zoran victory felt like, if not now, then when am I going to do it, right? So I finally did it around that time. And over time, more voters seem receptive to the group's economic platform. People are feeling that squeeze even if you're wealthy and tucked away in the suburbs, said Mr. Bowman, who also served as Mr. Bojak's field director. And while their opponents mostly relied on paid canvassers, Mr. Bowman said that his team of volunteers actually knew Mr. Bojak and believed in his policies, a personal touch and conviction that is sometimes lacking in traditional get-out-the-vote efforts. The old Buffalo establishment is getting, this is interesting. They're saying, okay, that confused me for a second. And while their opponents mostly relied on paid canvassers, yeah, Mr. Bowman said that his team of volunteers actually knew Mr. Bojak and believed in his policies. This is huge, by the way. This is, as someone who goes out and canvasses like regularly, they're like, I don't know. I've never interacted with a paid canvasser before, so I don't know for sure how they do it or how they come across, but I know how I come across, and that I am always trying. I feel an obligation. I feel a sense of duty when I go out and canvass, that I don't want to mess it up. I'm trying to be the best that I possibly can be. I'm trying to communicate as effectively as I possibly can for the candidate that I'm trying to get elected, which in this particular circumstance is Cori Bush. I feel a sense of like duty to that. I think that that's something that would obviously be left out when it comes to paid canvassers. I think when you're a paid canvasser, you're just going out, you're saying the talking points, and then you're moving on, right? I think there's a difference. Okay. A personal touch and conviction that is sometimes lacking in traditional get-out-the-vote efforts. The old Buffalo establishment is getting washed out, Mr. Bowman said. We're filling that void because we're the only political project around here that actually motivates voters. Mr. Brown, known to most as Mo, also benefited from DSA volunteers who fanned out to suburban pockets of their districts, where the group's policies may not have been received as warmly. Mr. Bowman said that the parts of the district in Buffalo were easier to canvass because of the city's density and its more progressive slant. But in the last month before the primary, the campaign began to venture into suburbs like Hamburg to try to lure more mainstream voters. A prelude to what Mr. Bojak and Mr. Brown will need to do for November's general election. I don't know if I would call them like mainstream voters necessarily, but like more suburban voters, sure. I don't know. I think that that's kind of, this is just pet peeves or whatever, but a little bit of like city erasure, like this, or like the cities, the enclaves of like city, like that, like before you get to suburbs, have so much more people in such a densely populated like section that like I don't know, maybe these would be considered more mainstream. I don't know what their demographic looks like, how many people are suburb, exurb, or city livers in that state, but I think a lot of times, or in that district, but I think a lot of times people, just because the size of the city is smaller compared to like the sprawling nature of suburbs and exurbs, underestimate just the sheer volume of people that live there. Okay. Mr. Bojak succeeded against his two opponents by garnering about 61% of the vote in the more vote-heavy Buffalo, overcoming roughly 33% he pulled in Hamburg. If the two men prevail, they will be part of a cohort of 16 DSA-backed legislators in Albany next year. This would represent the largest number of Democratic Socialists in the state capital ever, and that doesn't even account for the lawmakers who agree with the group's platform but are not officially part of the organization. Yeah, there's lots of people who are like adjacent to DSA, but I always like to keep those people distinct from in people's brains, and reiterate that they are not necessarily DSA candidates. People like Abdul El Sayed, who is, you know, a great candidate, I think, personally, is not a DSA candidate, right? He might have a DSA suggested vote, like that's something that DSA does, is they have like a suggested vote for, but they might, I don't think that they endorse outside of actual DSA members. Same with like the Graham Plattner situation or whatever. DSA did not in any way endorse Graham Plattner. He was not a DSA candidate, but he may have been a suggested vote. Like when, you know, and a suggested vote just means like we would prefer you vote for him over the opponent, aka Susan Collins or whatever, right? In that particular circumstance. So like I do like to keep a distinction there, because DSA is really good about who it picks as candidates, and other organizations are sometimes not, as we learned with Graham Plattner. So like DSA has a great vetting process. It also has a lot of like they pride very heavily you being like a movement person inside of the organization, like you being actively involved for years and stuff, that you have lots of people that have experiences with you and can vouch for you and trust you. Like there's a lot of that when it comes to DSA, which makes, in my opinion, DSA candidates just be like a lot more electable and a lot better candidates, generally speaking. That's not to say that there can't be like other good candidates that are like Bernie Kratz outside of DSA. Like I said, Abdul El Sayed I think is a great candidate personally, but it does mean that like they're not going to be held up to the highest standards that DSA would hold up their own endorsed candidates. Okay. Anyway, this would represent blah, blah, blah. Okay. The wins point to a good amount of sclerosis in the old line, consultant machine blob. And that's an interesting word. I've only ever heard that in terms of like spines or whatever, like multiple sclerosis. But anyway, sorry. The winds point to a good amount of sclerosis in the old line consultant machine blob, and that the era of simply bombarding people with mailers and television ads is maybe over, said Miss Romer, the national DSA co-chair. In Syracuse, Rachel May, a Democratic state senator, said that there was not much ideological separation between Mr. Brown and Mr. Magnarelli, but Mr. Brown was able to capitalize on voter frustration. That's what I'm saying. If you're associated with the establishment right now, then that's a disadvantage. You don't want to be associated with the establishment right now. People here feel that the Democratic Party's business as usual is not me in the moment, said Miss May, who also represents Syracuse and was one of the few elected officials to back Mr. Brown. I think people who are not necessarily of the same ideological spectrum as Mo still want someone who is going to fight in new ways because the old ways have not been working, she added. He tapped into some of that. Another modern day concern became an issue in Syracuse and Buffalo. Mammoth data centers used to power generative artificial intelligence. A state bill sponsored by a DSA lawmaker that was passed in Albany last month would create a one-year moratorium on new data centers. Data centers are the perfect wedge issue, right? They're the perfect thing to put front and center on your campaign. Same with Israel, right? Israel is more for the Democratic like primary, because I think I got this from Hassan, who said this, but like Israel is a 90-10 issue in the realm of Democrats. It's, I think, a 60-40 issue in the populace at large, but it's a 90-10 issue when it comes to Democrats. Data centers, on the other hand, are a 90-10 issue when it comes to everybody. Everybody fucking hates them. It's bipartisan hatred for data centers. And it's an easy, so where Israel is like a litmus test for the Democratic primary of where you're, whether you will align with corporate interests versus people, like the like working class or whatever. Because if you're too scared to stand up to AIPAC, stand against the genocide, then you're clearly going to be too scared to like stand up for Medicare for all, or you're going to be too scared to stand up, but because obviously those are like lesser, like they're like, our healthcare industry is evil, but it's still a lesser evil compared to like a genocide, right? So like that's a perfect like litmus test of like where your priorities are going to lie. Same thing goes with data centers. It's a perfect litmus test, because if you're on the side of data centers when it's a 90-10 issue, then you're already just showing how you're going to govern. It's very obvious to people how you're going to govern. So that's just another like wedge issue to always put on your on a DSA candidate of like, we are going to stop all data centers, and in fact we're going to destroy any data centers that have already been built. We are going to I don't know, take all of their GPUs out and have a free GPU day for anybody who wants to come get a new GPU can come grab it from the data center. Like, just have like policies like that and people come on board. Mr. Brown recounted attending a community meeting in the small town of Lysander, where a data center had been proposed. The room was not big enough to hold everyone who wanted to be there for that meeting, he said. They wanted elected officials to pay attention, he added. I had a leg up on my opponent because I was. There you go. There you go, man. This is like proving my ideology right, like 2 paragraphs in advance, because I keep explaining my ideology and then I would read a paragraph or 2 down and the people would just say exactly what I thought. So yeah, I mean, like I like to say that like this sort of thing, these sorts of victories are inevitable when they happen. When we have the organizing capacity and the people to actually put these DSA candidates into into their elections and to help get them through it and to organize around it, like once we have that capacity to do this everywhere, the victories will be inevitable. Like I said, the other people, the rest of the Democrats, they're playing with their hands tied behind their back because they can't say the things that the DSA can say, right? So like it's inevitable, but don't get me wrong. That means that we have to do the work to actually build the organizing capacity for these DSA candidates to get pushed in front of people, to get on the ballot, to canvass for them, to phone bank for them, to get them like onto the airwaves so that people can learn about them. That's our responsibility as organizers. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. That was a pretty good article. I feel like there's a lot of good analysis there. So let's go from a really good article to probably a really bad article. Let's go to the New York Post. New York's rag, the dish rag. I won't lie. I kind of love reading New York Post articles. For the same reason that I love watching Fox News. The unhinged levels are just so funny. Like, and like the bad analysis is like so, I don't know, just so fun to read and like laugh at that I just can't help myself. So we're going to be reading this article by Jeff. I think that's Jeff. My name is Jeff. Sorry. Oh, I'm such a millennial, dude. Stop it. Stop it, Clay. Okay. I can't scare people away before I even start reading the fucking article. Capitalists fight back. New York Dem launches campaign to counter socialist wave sweeping the party. Now, the reason that I chose this article is because I think this is going to be hilarious. I can't wait to see what the corporate establishment like tries to do to be able to counter like the DSA and the socialist organizing that's happening right now, because it's all going to collapse and fail spectacularly. At least that's my personal assumption. But let's read the article. Who knows? Maybe they will actually have good ideas, and it won't just be vain centrist consultant slop that's not going to motivate anybody to ever vote for any of their candidates. I don't know. Maybe they'll be right this time. So let's go ahead and read this article. After a wave of Democratic Socialist primary wins, a faction of Democrats is fighting back, arguing capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than any system in history and vowing to reclaim the party from the left. I would argue that China is currently raising the most people out of poverty in the history of the world, and they operate under a nominally communist regime. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a state capitalist regime. It is not an actual communist organization of the economy. However, they do nominally call themselves communists. So, anyway, there's a lot of us that don't like what's happening with the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. Nobody's organized. Long Island Rep. Tom Suozzi, Democrat New York, told the Post, lamenting that critics go to cocktail parties and wring their hands while Democratic Socialists keep scoring wins. It's because that's all you know how to do, brother. That's all you know how to do. You don't know how to organize. Are you kidding me? The Democratic Party is a top-down party. It is the donors then talk to the consultants, which then talk to the candidates, which then blast their shit out in front of the public and just hope that no better candidate comes along to run against them. That's how the Democratic Party operates. That's fundamental to their structure, right? They are not they don't have like the Democratic centrists don't have like a base of support of like volunteers who are going to come out and like advocate for them, especially now. Do you understand how unpopular the Democratic Party is right now, right? Democratic Party unpopularity. Uh, 60%. How unpopular is the Democratic Party with Democratic voters? Let me see if I can find, I'm trying to find something to verify my assumptions. Maybe this will be good enough. I don't know. So this is from what, 20, this looks like it goes to 2023 or something. Look at the Democrats' unfavorability rating, though. It's going up to 60%. I thought that they were even more unfavorable, though, to be honest. I thought it was like 65 or 70, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, it's incredibly unpopular. It's incredibly unpopular. So like when you're that unpopular, then you're not going to be able to motivate anybody to come out and like, you know, organize for you. And also that's not what your party, that's not how your party has been built. His concern was underscored by yet another win by a DSA-backed candidate who knocked off 30-year congressional vet Representative Diana Delgado in Colorado. We're for capitalism, not socialism. Capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any system in the history of the world, he said. It's created better outcomes for people, but that's not to say that we're supportive of just the status quo. DeGette fell to... DeGette, yeah, sorry. I think I misspoke earlier. DeGette fell to 29-year-old Milat Kuros, a DSA member herself endorsed by left-wing darling Senator Bernie Sanders. In last week's primary, after accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza while reaffirming comments calling the September 11 attacks inevitable. Two accurate statements. This one is confirmed by our own Pentagon that blowback occurred when it came to September 11th. I mean, if our own Pentagon agrees with it, I don't know. What do you hate the Pentagon, New York Post? Do you think the Pentagon's lying to you? How unpatriotic of you. You're supposed to support our military. What are you doing? And then Israel, yeah, I mean, every human rights organization under the sun says that Israel's committing genocide in Gaza. The only people who don't are the ones just trying to pretend that it's not so that they can continue supporting the nation state of Israel. And Kuros is far from alone. Democrats have got to get back to traditional democratic values about looking out for working men and women and trying to improve their lot in life, Suozzi said. Except that's not what the Democratic Party stands for anymore. That's not what they've stood for a long time. They stand for their donors. They stand for their consultants. They stand for corporations. They do not stand for the working class. And in fact, what you're describing right there, the Democratic Party going back to standing for the working class, is exactly what the Democratic Socialists of America are currently doing. So your argument is that the Democrats should go out there and do what the Democratic Socialists are doing. You could just let the Democratic Socialists do it. I think you just don't like the socialist name. But also, they don't actually want to try to change the party to like actually be for working class individuals, because then their corporations and donors will dry up. Like all of their favorite Epstein associates will stop giving them calls back. So we'll stop inviting them to Epstein Island. So, you know, they don't like it. They aren't ever going to be for the working class. And so the DSA is stepping up. He co-organized a Promise to America pledge with Representative Adam Gray, Democrat, California, for lawmakers that declares, "We want safety, not lawlessness. We're proud of America, not ashamed of America." Who is this fucking for, man? Jesus Christ. Suozzi spoke while driving to the new Theodore Roosevelt presidential, I say that because this is all platitudes, man. These are all platitudes. These are not actual policies. These are just platitudes. Like, who gives a shit? You know what actual policies are? Fast and free buses, universal childcare, like city-run grocery stores, like lower your grocery costs. Like, those are actual policies. These are platitudes. These are not going to win anybody over. Suozzi spoke while driving to the new Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in North Dakota. He said he went on his own to check it out, not as part of President Trump's visit that came a few hours earlier. "I couldn't hitch a ride on Air Force One," he quipped, as he comments come days after Senator John Fetterman blasted what he called an orgy of socialism in the party. What a weird way to describe it. The nation's most prominent, although, I mean, in that mush brain that he has, I guess it makes sense. Anyway, the nation's most prominent Democratic Socialist Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Thursday shook up the U.S. Senate when she threw her support behind Abdul El-Sayed, the left-wing Senate candidate in Michigan. El-Sayed is battling Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, choice of Representative Haley Stevens. What gives? That girl. What gives? I can't do the voice, but she has a hilarious voice. She sounds like Bobby Hill. It's amazing. And her loss could foil the Dems' chance of retaking the Senate. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think so personally. I think that Abdul is a much better candidate for the Democrats than Haley Stevens. No, Haley Stevens is not going to win over any fucking Republicans, man. Not as many as Abdul can win over. Like I said, there's stats on this. Zoran Mamdani did better with Trump voters than previous like centrist mayors or whatever. Like, you know, it's I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Suozzi and his brethren may have their work cut out for them. A Gallup poll last September showed just 54% support for capitalism, down from 61% in 2010. And a shock poll last week showed a third of Democrats want Democratic Socialists in office. I'm surprised that it's still that low, man. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, California, in 2021 even questioned capitalism. In America, capitalism is our system. It is our economic system, but it's not served our economy as well as it should, adding that U.S. should not depart from that, but to improve that. Impossible. I mean, this is where I'm just going to always disagree with like social democrats and stuff, is that it's impossible to reform capitalism. Capitalism always leads to wealth accumulation and power accumulation into less and less hands. The end result of that is fascism, where you wield the state and you wield the power, that you've accumulated, and in order to forcefully maintain your wealth and forcefully maintain your power. There's no way to stop capitalism from like doing that unless you go to like a state capitalist model like China, where you have like a birdcage strategy where you never allow any you never allow any industry to acquire too much wealth and power that they would be able to actually control the government. Right now in America, you have 5 companies that essentially control the United States government and use it as a as a fleshlight. Whereas in China, at least, like the government can still control the corporations. They can break up the corporations. They can seize their wealth if they need to stop them from accumulating too much power and all that stuff. So, that's the difference. In capitalism, it's impossible. It's impossible to stop that wealth accumulation. or like complete free market capitalism, at least. Like I said, state capitalism is different. 5 years later, she didn't betray any panic when she spoke to the Post after socialist candidates swept a trio of New York congressional races. I wouldn't make so much of it. Nobody makes a big deal when a left-wing person wins in San Francisco and all of a sudden New York. I loved our incumbents. I wish they had won. But in terms of what it means, it's what it means for New York. It isn't what it means for the rest of the country. Keep thinking that. I love it when you underestimate us. It's the best. Because it just means it just makes it easier. To be fair, though, I don't think they're actually underestimating us. I think that's the message that they're giving out. I think that they're really scared and they're really doing everything they possibly can to try to stop this from spreading to purple and even red districts because they're incredibly scared of how successful it could be. If it keeps growing, which it will keep growing. It turns out capitalism is alive and very well. Then President Joe Biden declared as the nation added 850,000 to payrolls during the recovery from COVID-19 in 2021. Vice President Kamala Harris, who picked up the baton after Biden's 2024 debate disaster, another consequence of capitalism, by the way, is our gerontocracy and our two-party system that makes it impossible for us to have a functional government. But, you know, whatever. Has been conducting her own outreach to socialists. It was revealed last week she has been phoning and texting Mayor Mamdani and met one-on-one with AOC at an event on empowering Black women in Chicago. She's coming to kiss the ring. That was taken as a sign of her presidential ambitions. During her failed sprint to the White House 2 years ago, she told the Economic Club of Pittsburgh she was a capitalist. I promise you I will be pragmatic in my approach, she avowed them, which is why she will never win. Okay, well, that was kind of interesting. It was basically exactly what I was expecting. I love when these like centrist Dems that are completely bought and paid for by politicians, or by corporations, tried to pretend like they're going to be able to organize. They'll never be able to organize, man. It's a lost cause. You can't organize from a top down, right? You just can't. Like, not a mass movement. And an organization of a political body has to be from the ground up, which is what the DSA is. So it's impossible for them they will never be able to stop this from happening. But hey, they can keep trying and they can keep pretending. Like I said, I love when they underestimate us. So, okay. Let's do some fun stuff. Let's start with fun political stuff, though. We're at what? 2 hours and 10 minutes. Oof. Okay. I might not get to oh, man. I got to get to the shit that was on my in my title, I feel like. Let's start with the Apple one then. I think that was in my title. Okay. So, Apple, okay, I saw this and it sort of caught my eye. Apple sues OpenAI for trade secret theft after integrating ChatGPT. Wow, what a shocker. You mean to tell me that the intellectual property theft machine stole my intellectual property after I integrated it into my software? What? Who could have seen this coming? Man, this is crazy. This is by John Markman. Let's go ahead and read it. 2 years ago, Apple gave OpenAI the most valuable real estate and consumer technology, building ChatGPT directly into the iPhone's operating system. On Friday, it asked a federal court to treat the same company as a thief. The complaint, filed in the Northern District of California, accuses OpenAI of trade secret theft and breach of contract and alleges the misconduct ran at every level, from members of its technical staff to its chief hardware officer, and in coordination with business partners. The betrayal storyline will carry the weekend headlines. The document under is this? Okay, the document underneath is more useful. Apple's complaint doubles as the most detailed public account yet of OpenAI's device program, and the decision to file it is Apple's own measure of how seriously it takes what OpenAI is building. This makes me a little bit worried, personally. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I already know that like all of our data is harvested and sold to the highest bidder. You know, out on the internet and stuff or whatever, right? I already know that these phones that we have are constantly tracking everything we fucking do in a surveillance state. Like, I understand that. But there are, like, I think still security, like, you know, they still try to keep your phone generally secure from most people, right? Like they still have like the level of security that like somebody can't like come in and like hack and steal your credit card information or whatever, right? What I get really worried about like OpenAI and ChatGPT being integrated into iPhones is I get worried that like all of my information is getting stored in their fucking database somewhere, or is getting like analyzed and read by ChatGPT so that it could like regurgitate your credit card information to whoever asked or something, you know? Like, that's what I'm a little bit worried about when it comes to this sort of stuff. But anyway, let's keep reading. What the complaint alleges. The central figure is Tong Yu Tan, who spent nearly a quarter century at Apple overseeing product design for the iPhone and Apple Watch before co-founding IO Products, the hardware studio built with Jony Ive that OpenAI acquired for roughly $6.5 billion in 2025. According to the complaint, Tan forwarded Apple supplier information to his personal email before leaving. Okay. Coached incoming recruit. So, okay. Sorry, 1 second. So, okay. Tong Yu Tan was a 25-year Apple employee overseeing product design of various Apple products before co-founding. So then he co-founded IO Products, which OpenAI acquired. So he's now working at OpenAI. Okay. According to the complaint, Tan forwarded Apple supplier information to his personal email before leaving, coached incoming recruits on how to navigate Apple's departure procedures, and directed candidates interviewing at OpenAI to bring hardware from unreleased Apple products, including batteries, logic boards, and system and package modules, to their interviews as show and tell. Well, that's just, okay, that's a little bit different than what I was expecting, to be honest. I was expecting ChatGPT, like the integrated software, to just be like harvesting Apple's like, you know, proprietary software or whatever. This is a little more like old school trade secret selling and stuff. The filing also names Cheng Liu, a senior system electrical engineer who Apple alleges kept an Apple-issued laptop after leaving for OpenAI this year and used it to download confidential technical documents. Well, why didn't you get it back? Like, I don't know. Like, I have a laptop from one of my previous employees or employers or whatever. Eventually, they just wrote it off and gave it to me, like once tax season came, like a year later or something. But yeah, like that's your responsibility, Apple, to collect that stuff before they leave. A third thread claims OpenAI demonstrated a proprietary Apple metal finishing technique to a manufacturing partner while leading the partner to believe Apple had approved. OpenAI rejects all of it. We have no interest in other companies' trade secrets. Apple is asking the court to bar OpenAI from keeping or using the material and to order its return. The map inside the filing. Every item Apple chose to highlight sketches a piece of the device OpenAI has never announced. System and package modules are how engineers fit a computer into something the size of a hearing aid. Supplier relationships are what a company needs when a prototype becomes a production line. A metal finishing technique matters to a team design how mass manufactured hardware feels in a consumer's hand or in a customer's hand. Apple, in the act of protecting its secrets, has confirmed which secrets a consumer AI device actually requires. Apple, in the act of protecting its secrets, has confirmed which secrets a consumer AI device actually requires. I'm not quite sure what that means. The public record fills in the timeline. OpenAI's chief global affairs officer told Axios in January that the company aims to debut its first device before the end of the year. And subsequent reporting, okay, so they're planning on releasing an actual device. And subsequent reporting describes a screenless wearable and a smart speaker with a camera, with parts of the lineup slipping toward early 2027. Whatever the final form factor, Apple's own filing treats the program as far along. A company does not ask a federal court for relief against a product it believes will never ship. That is also what makes the suit a schedule risk for OpenAI. Discovery reaches into its hardware lab at the exact moment of the lab is racing a launch window and an early injunction. If Apple wins one, lands on the program's critical path. Okay. So they're talking about how this could impact OpenAI's delivery of these hardware devices, which I'm going to be honest, I don't necessarily believe are going to be that popular, but I could be wrong. The input money cannot buy. OpenAI has shown it can buy nearly every input it needs. Compute arrives through multi-year cloud commitments, capital through the largest private raises on record, distribution through a chatbot used by hundreds of millions. Consumer hardware runs on a scarcer input. Engineers who have shipped miniaturized electronics at 100 million unit scale, and the overwhelming majority of them trained at one company in Cupertino. Hiring those people is legal. California famously does not enforce non-compete agreements, which is why trade secrets law is the only break Apple has on the movement of its own alumni, and why the conflict surfaces in a courtroom rather than in an offer letter. By the way, this is a good thing. This is a good thing because guess who they would be suing? Guess who Apple would be suing if they if they were allowed to do like non-compete agreements and all that sort of stuff. They'd be suing the individuals. They'd be suing the individuals who may have kept a laptop or whatever. I'm not saying those people didn't break the law, by the way. They could have. They could have given trade secrets to OpenAI, and then those trade secrets could have been used for a product or whatever. But because Apple did isn't like going after them as individuals, they're deciding to go after OpenAI, which is great. These companies should go after like other companies. Like they shouldn't be going after individuals. I think that's completely ridiculous and unfair. So this is a good thing. Okay. The lawsuit is what a talent bottleneck looks like at the moment it finally binds. OpenAI, recruited by Apple selling from every level of its hardware organization. Apple answered with the heaviest tool available against a company its own software still shares a phone with. What the timing says. The suit lands in the middle of a leadership handover. Tim Cook becomes executive chairman on September 1st and hands the chief executive job to John Ternus, the hardware engineering chief who spent his career inside the organization the complaint defends. And Apple, about to be run by its top hardware engineer, suing to protect hardware secrets, it's a consistent signal about where the company believes this franchise is won or lost. The timing reads just as clearly from OpenAI's side. A first-party device is how OpenAI stops renting its distribution. Today, ChatGPT reaches consumers through hardware other companies control, the iPhone first among them, and every one of those channels can reprice or restrict it. That dependency is what a $6.5 billion acquisition and a recruiting campaign reaching into Apple's senior ranks were built to end. The case itself will grind through motions for a long time, and the verdict matters less to investors than the filing already does. Apple and OpenAI disagree about nearly everything in the complaint, but they are in perfect agreement on the premise underneath it. The next major consumer computing platform is being designed right now, and the fight over who ships it has moved from the labor market into federal court. The dates that matter from here sit on two calendars on the courts. An early injunction ruling would show whether OpenAI's timeline is genuinely at risk, and OpenAI's a device unveiling in the coming months would show the program outran the lawsuit. I think this is characterization, by the way. The next major consumer computing platform is being designed right now. I doubt it. I just doubt it, man. I don't think that many people are going to want to be using like the Chat GPT phone or whatever. I'm sure some people are. There's people who are like unhinged levels of like obsessed with Chat GPT. But like, what's the value proposition for the average consumer, right? Why would I want this over an iPhone? Like, what does it give me that an iPhone doesn't give me? Like ChatGPT, okay, like it can answer questions that you can type into Google and find an answer for. Like, okay, that's not that much of a value proposition, to be honest. So I don't know. I don't see that really taking off. The watch is more believable, like a watch that you like ask questions to, but we already have like Siri and stuff, which is integrated with the entire Apple like iOS shit. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that's interesting. I was thinking they were stealing software. That's what I thought. So this was interesting that they were talking about hardware the whole time. So, but yeah, the copyright infringement machine decided to steal proprietary information. The company responsible decided to do that, apparently. So, allegedly. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? Okay, guys, it's 2 hours and 23 minutes. I think I'm going to have to call it with that one. I had a couple more articles, but I've been reading a lot today. There weren't as many videos. We can reminisce about this incredible hiding spot in Mecha Chameleon that we have right here that I showed at the beginning of one of my friends. Yeah, with that being said, thank you all for watching. If you're watching the VOD, love you too. This has been Technically Clay, and the stream is technically over. Bye-bye.